Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Another Round podcast YouTube channel. As you can see, I'm sitting in the studio for the new podcast. The seat beside me is empty. We'll get to Brandon here in a minute. We just wanted to take a minute and sit down and introduce ourselves before we dive into this podcast that'll be coming out in the next couple weeks. First episode will be airing on October 25th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We kind of bounce around all over the place. We touch on residue management, some of the beers we like to drink, what do we call different pieces of harvest equipment as far as machinery that's used in peanuts and corn and cotton and things like that. So that bounces all over the place. We kind of get a little out of sorts on some of the conversations. So we thought we'd go ahead and throw it out just to kind of get all the BS out of the way, if you will. Moving forward, we're going to be a lot more focused. I know episode 2 is going to touch on residue management a little bit more in depth than what we do in the first show, so look for that to come out the week after this first episode. All of our podcasts are going to be available on Spotify and YouTube, so give us a follow there. Both channels are Another Round Podcast or just Another Round. If you want to give us a follow on social media, like and subscribe to the YouTube page. All of our social media, which is TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, is at Another Round _pod. ANOTHER ROUND_POD, and I'll link all that down in the description so it's easy for y'all to find. So with that being said, my name is Clay Nelms. Grew up in north central Mississippi, spent a lot of time in the Delta. Didn't really grow up on a farm, but I spent a lot of time around farming as you would growing up in the Delta. So had a guy tell me when I was about 16 years old, I was actually working for crop production services at the time, that, hey man, you talk a little too damn much to do anything besides sales, and you get along with all these farmers really well, it might be something worth looking into. So me being me, went to Auburn University, got my degree in agronomy, and then went straight into the workforce after graduation. Worked for the Alabama Farmers Co-op for a little while, and then bounced around after that with a couple of different nutritional companies, which has landed me where I am today. Still covering the Southeast, have Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. So those 3 states are very, very large in cash crops. Georgia, we get a little bit more into fruit and vegetable, and we'll touch on that in some of our podcasts. We're really just trying to drive an agronomic conversation. So we're going to talk about things that some of the other ag podcasts maybe don't dive in depth on. Both Brandon and I are trained agronomists, so he'll tell you a little bit more about himself here in a minute. We've got him on Zoom, so he'll talk to you for a second and tell you everything you need to know about him. But like I said, podcast comes out on the 25th for the first episode, and then it'll be every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time after that.
Hey everyone, Brandon here. Had a few minutes tonight. Wanted to jump on real quick, do a quick introduction, kind of why I'm part of the Another Round podcast. Kind of give you a background, some of the things that some of my experiences, things that I can bring to the table, and some of the discussions that we'll be able to have. Grew up in central North Carolina, more towards the eastern part of the state than the western part of the state. But so growing up, in high school, working on farms, having the opportunity to work with a bunch of various different crops from tobacco, cotton, corn, soybeans, wheat. Went to NC State and did a lot of work, an undergrad, working in tobacco pathology, to corn breeding programs, to small grains. After graduation, I actually ended up working for NC State for about 5 years. Worked in anything from small grains extension all the way up through the breeding program there at NC State, and actually ended up spending about 1.5 years managing one of the research stations for the horticulture crops. So anything from peaches to apples to watermelon, squash, strawberries. Made jump from there. Actually spent some time with North Carolina Department of Agriculture as an agronomist in the eastern part of North Carolina. Working with the same crops: sweet potatoes, tobacco, cotton, corn, soybeans, wheat. And then I made the jump to private industry, which gave me an opportunity to really grow and kind of see a lot more, a lot of different production practices up and down the East Coast. even down into Florida, dealing with some of the citrus and a lot of the vegetable production up and down the East Coast. So, yeah, I think, with this podcast, we're going to talk a lot about row crop production, corn, soybeans, cotton, peanuts, but I look forward to being able to bring some of these other crops in and have some discussions about those and kind of where they fit into production systems, especially in the Southeast. So y'all stick around and let's have fun with some of this stuff and have some good conversations, and look forward to some of y'all's feedback, questions that you have, things you want to hear. Feel free to shoot those into us, and we'll see. If we can't talk about it, we know somebody that we can get on that'll be able to talk about that. So y'all hang around.
All right, Brandon. Well, thanks for the introduction, man. We really appreciate it. Like we said earlier, just want to jump on and give y'all a quick introduction to ourselves before the podcast airs. Y'all stay tuned for what we got going on. Again, give us a follow on social media if you can. I'll link those in the description, like I said before. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see y'all later.